Mommytrack Daddy Whispers Podcast is now called Birth Agni Podcast.
Welcome! You're listening to Mommytrack Daddy Whispers, a podcast about women, postpartum, parenting, and the subtle support that fathers extend to us.
My name is Divya, and today we're going to talk about postpartum depression. The very controversial situation that is not recognized most of the times, especially by women themselves. This is the most vulnerable a mother can ever be. Although I can speak at length about how vulnerable mothers are most of the times, but I will reserve that for some other day. Today I'll speak about my journey into motherhood. What were the probable causes for postpartum depression? Situations that healed me or worsened my problem? The symptoms and the remedy. To start with, I am a mother of a 1-year-old daughter. I come from India, and Indian families live with their parents and their parents. So practically, we can have on an average of 4 to 8 people living together. We believe in staying together. So when I gave birth, naturally I was surrounded by a lot of people. And hence there was a lot of care and help. But there was one thing that lagged. There was very little recognition of postpartum depression. So here we are discussing it. What were the probable causes? I wanted my baby to be delivered normally. I exercised, I did yoga, I worked towards it. As per my understanding, if you get the pains, it is easier to deliver the baby naturally. But somehow, at the last moment, I went through a cesarean. The circumstances were such that I could not understand if what is going on is right for either me or my baby. Post-delivery, I used to replay the entire delivery episode again and again, thinking what could have been, what was, and the likes. I used to think, what could I have done that I would have delivered normally? I had questions, a lot of them. I wanted to ask somebody, did I do something wrong that my baby was not delivered normally? Am I at fault? All these questions, they drained me. They drained me completely. What were the symptoms? What effect did this kind of thinking had on me? Before I go there, I would also like to talk about the fact that it took me 1 week to actually realize that I was depressed. I was 1 week into depression and I did not know. Let's move on to symptoms. I was thinking so much that I slept for 5 hours in 3 days. I could not sleep, and shivers went through my body in the night. Crying. I used to cry a lot. I was vulnerable. I was very, very sensitive. I used to cry at the drop of the pen. Everything and anything could make me cry. In the nights, I used to feel so suffocated that I remember myself saying that I might not see the light of the day. Not feeling the love for the baby. Let me say it out and loud that I did not feel the love for the baby. I knew I loved my daughter in spirit, But in reality, I did not feel it. Not initially. Am I a bad mother? Did I feel guilty back then? Guilty, yes, I still do. Guilty. I feel guilty for a lot of things. I know I should not, but I do, and I seek support to feel otherwise. But back then, I was not wise. Back then, I did feel undivine, that I did not feel the love for the baby. Am I a bad mother? No. Now, no. Now I know. Now I'm wise. A human being feeling things the way they are, it's natural and it's normal. Feeling like the world is not with you. That is another thing I felt while I was depressed. Yes, I felt everybody was just creating noise. There was a lot of noise. Anyway, because also it was winters and I was already stressed. So everything stressed me. But at some point, I wanted to be left alone. My mother was here helping me with the baby. But I wanted her to leave. There was a lot of help, but I wanted her to leave. Why? Because she was primarily taking care of the baby. And the baby seemed easier to her. The baby seemed inclined towards her. And the already disturbed me felt things were being snatched away from me. I was not good enough. The simple statements of her excitement and love towards the baby made me cringe. Quite honestly, it was bothering me at the same time as to why I was feeling like that. I was able to think, I was able to recognize that I was feeling in a very different way. I had never felt so contained by the circumstances, so possessive, so bad. That was the condition I was in. Those were the symptoms. Now, what helped me coming out and how long this depression lasted? Remedy. What really helped me was the recognition that I was depressed. And as I already said, it took me 1 week to recognize that I was depressed. Believe me, that is a milestone in itself. So I used to talk to my sister and explain to her the situations around me, etc. And one day, she suggested, it seems like you're depressed. You could be under postpartum depression. And going through a C-section when you were so inclined towards normal is one of the most common reasons out there for postpartum depression. That recognition and a channel to express and be understood, that prevented it from getting worse to a great deal. Now from there on, my journey into healing started. But there were things that were constantly making it worse. What were they? The lack of empathy and the lack of recognition. There are better ways to handle a person going through a rough phase. I did not need scolding, not at all. I did not need lectures, not at all. I needed somebody to come and ask me as to why I was feeling the way I was. But honestly, we have to talk. We have to talk about a lot of things. A. Recognizing a person going through this phase. B. Know that a mother who, by legends, should be on cloud 9 after delivering a baby is actually not in a fairy tale. It is life by all means, and a mother can be depressed, period. She can be tired, she can be unhappy, and lo, it is a sudden change. All the attention she had to herself before the baby was born is gone. And she's weak. She can be cry-sim, yes, that is normal, but that needs addressal. C. Know the symptoms. Read about postpartum depression. And I would like to speak to all the men, the fathers, the husbands, the brothers out there. If you see your woman going that route, know that it could be depression. Know that you can recognize it. And once you recognize it, you can go ahead and educate others. That would help a woman, a mother, enjoy motherhood. So that was my experience with postpartum depression. How I heal myself? I started talking to my sister a lot. I found a channel where I would not be judged, and a constant dealing with the issue that I was depressed. I tried and go out a lot. It took me 2 months to come out of it completely. The worst days were for the first 15 days. And I did not see a doctor, but I would suggest that if you go through this phase, please go and see a doctor if you're not able to take care of yourself on your own. It was important to deal with the situation, and it is a very, very common situation. So that was my experience, and I would love to hear back from you. Your experiences, if they resonate with me, or tell me about the methods that worked for you. And if you did not have postpartum depression, I am so glad. Please, please share your experience and how different it was from us. Fathers, husbands, talk to us, tell us about your journey into parenthood. Now we move on to the frequently asked questions section. How common is postpartum depression? It is very common as per my experience and the research that I've had with the women around me. I think it is very, very common. How does it affect your healing? In my case, it worsened my healing. My body stopped accepting the stitches that I had after cesarean. And I think that was because I was not able to accept the fact that I went through an operation. How does it affect your child? In my case, I underwent an animalistic behavior with my child. I had to protect my own child from getting harmed by me. I'm putting out really gross examples here, but that is what I went through. Is paternal postpartum depression a thing? Yes, I read about it. It is a thing, but I do not know about it. So I would like to speak to fathers who have had it. Let us all be ignited, enlightened. That is the purpose of this community, to talk to each other, to enlighten each other, and to make our journeys easier. Knowing that there is a shoulder we can always lay our heads back onto. So those were the frequently asked questions. That section is done. Now we move on to the parenting tip of the week. The parenting tip of the week. Okay, a very important section. So a few days back, I was talking to my daughter. She doesn't respond back. She doesn't speak. She only responds in her gestures. So I had the music on. She started dancing. That was one of the most relaxing moments I had with her. So what I did was I closed the door, let the outsides be outsides, and closed the lights and started dancing with her. Trust me, I had tears in my eyes. It was such an overwhelming experience. So what is the tip? The tip is, no matter how old your child is, go back to your home. The working mothers, working fathers, housewives, businessmen, go back home. Go back home, take your children, and start dancing. Okay, sneak peek into the second episode. We're going to talk about family dynamics. I come from India. The setup is very different. I would talk about family dynamics on the other side. Stay tuned.